in that field, and Peter Clifford is alongside our commentator. Let's say good afternoon to him. It's Chris Carter.
Well, welcome to Oulton Park for what promises to be an absolutely splendid afternoon of road racing here at this Cheshire circuit. As you say, we're on the warm-up lap for this 8-lap 250cc event, and a big wheelie there from young Alan Carter, the talented Yorkshireman, brother, of course, of Kenny Carter, the speedway rider. Alan, a superstar in his own branch of motorcycle sport, the man who led the 250cc race at the British Grand Prix at Silverstone just a couple of weeks ago till he fell off in the absolutely atrocious conditions. And Carter, surprisingly, down in 7th place in practice for this 8-lap race with Neil Mackenzie and Donny McLeod, his two talented rivals, the Scotsman on the Silverstone Armstrong team, first and second fastest. But Alan Carter leading the warm-up, and he eases off the throttle as the rest of the field jockey around him to come back to the starting grid to line up for this 8-lap race. 45 starters on the grid, and Tony Head, the man who just pulled up then in the centre of the grid, number 10. Interesting to see him on the front row of the grid. Tony, a former postal worker from Coventry, had a bash at the Grand Prix. There's number 1, Alan Carter, on the front row of the grid, and it really is a talented lineup. Neil Mackenzie on pole position. So Mackenzie pole position, McLeod second fastest, Tony had third best, young Steve Patrickson from up in Yorkshire fourth fastest, and an excellent ride from Martin Yupp, who's also at the front row of the grid. The sign is up for them to stop engines. It's going to be a push start. There's the traffic light signal, the Lucas lights. They will go front change, that'll come up to red, it will go to green, they'll start pushing, and then an 8-lap battle ahead of them. Mackenzie, the man who holds the 250 and 350cc lap records here at Oulton Park. The traffic lights are on red, they're on to green, away they go. And we see who makes the break. A good start from Alan Carter, number 1, but an even better one from Donny McLeod, who just chopped off on the inside.
It's Kenny Irons who leads the pack now. Kenny Irons who ducked up the inside on his 250 Yamaha and take the lead.
So Kenny Irons and Neil Mackenzie, number 11 and 4. But Alan Carter goes through. Alan Carter on the front row of the grid as well. The whole pack sweeping through the left-hander of Cascades. Then the charge down the short straight onto the new section of this Oulton Park circuit. In the old days, they used to go on to Esso Bend, but they go into the hairpin, and somebody nearly caused a disaster there. That was Steve Patrickson, I think, who nearly made problems for everybody there. Steve Patrickson, number 8, charged on the inside. Alan Carter leads from Neil Mackenzie. Mackenzie alongside him, that's Donny McLeod. And Mackenzie and Carter absolutely side by side. Alan Carter lets Mackenzie go through. Brave men, both of them, but Alan Carter wasn't quite brave enough to go hurtling through Knickerbrook and then Clay Hill on towards Druids now on this first lap of this 250cc challenge race. Mackenzie leads from Alan Carter. Mackenzie on the Silverstone Armstrong, Carter on the Donington Honda. The rest of the pack streaming through behind. Mackenzie number 4, then Carter, then Donny McLeod.
And it's Gary Noel, number 6, up into 4th place on the EMC.
And here they come at the end of the first lap, and it's Mackenzie still from Alan Carter, Donny McLeod there with the other Silverstone Armstrong. So Carter, the filling in the Silverstone Arm onto the curb, all 3 men, and certainly McLeod closes on Alan Carter. Gary Knoll there in 4th position. 5th is Steve Patrickson, a great ride from this former Marlborough club rider. Then in 6th spot, Martin Yupp, and a good ride from 2 from the Walsall lads. But this is the man who leads. Number 4, Neil Mackenzie into the hairpin, and you can see McLeod closing on Carter, and Gary Knoll getting closer. And McLeod winds on the pound, so does Carter, gets a bit of a snake on. Mackenzie, number 4, the quietly spoken Scotsman, one of the most talented young men in British road racing, and many people believe that Mackenzie could go on to become a future world champion. Well, the Silverstone Armstrong team has been a major force on the Grand Prix trail, and Donny McLeod goes past Alan Carter. Carter fights back, Carter back on the inside line, takes second place back. So Mackenzie and Alan Carter, and there is Gary Knoll. He wants a bit of the action. In fifth place, the yellow leathers of Steve Patrickson. And the yellow flag out there to indicate there's been some problem. I don't know who's taken the fall there, but there's this battle behind. Neil Mackenzie out in front, and it's Carter holding on to second place. Mackenzie there, and Gary Knoll, far from being an interested spectator. He wants to get in there on the scene. Alan Carter then out in front, Donny McLeod, Gary Knoll there behind him, and they're all chasing this man, number 4, Neil Mackenzie. And Mackenzie inside the existing lap record, 27.4 he lapped in practice, 1.3 seconds quicker than anybody else, including his teammate Donny McLeod. So this is Neil Mackenzie, and there is this tremendous battle for second place. Absolutely side by side. It's number 1 Alan Carter, number 6 Gary Knoll, and number 3 Donny McLeod, and they're swapping positions. It's McLeod who's got the upper hand. He's second, but Gary Knoll slides through neatly inside Alan Carter to go into third place, and then Carter comes back at him, but Knoll closes the gate. Oh, this is superb stuff. Here's the leader behind him, this battle for second, third and fourth spot. There is Mackenzie, and behind him, here comes this three-man dice. McLeod, Carter, and Gary Knoll. There's Gary Knoll through Druids. Then it's McLeod. Then Gary Knoll on Dr. Joe Ehrlich's EMC, and pushed back into fourth position now is Alan Carter. Well, this is a taster for the final rounds of the British Championship here on Sunday and Monday, and certainly Alan Carter's got to do something better than this if he's going to win the 250cc title. Pushed back to fourth place now. Mackenzie, the race leader, just pulling away there. The bike just easing its way over the ripples of this Oulton Park circuit. Mackenzie the leader, 3 laps completed now, 5 laps to go. And Donny McLeod appears to have established a good hold on second spot now. So the Silverstone Armstrong machines, managed by Chas Mortimer this year on the World Championship trail, and they really have put up some excellent performances on many of the racetracks of the world. A very professional and smart team, and Neil Mackenzie showing the sort of potential and ability that would encourage his supporters to believe that he can go on to something bigger and better.
Yes, and he's certainly got some good machinery under him. Both these Silverstone Armstrongs, very impressive Grand Prix machines, not with the usual steel or aluminium chassis that the road bikes and most racing bikes use, but the carbon fibre design built in England, designed and built in England at the Bolton Armstrong factory.
Coming round then to complete the fourth lap, this will be the halfway stage. Neil Mackenzie goes over the line now, so Mackenzie is the race leader. It's Donny McLeod going through in second place. Gary Knoll there, an excellent ride from the 250cc European champion. And Alan Carter pulls into the pits, so up into fourth place goes Steve Patrickson. In fifth spot now is number 9, and there is Alan Carter coming into the pits. Well, that really is disappointment and a serious problem for Alan Carter. Carter, as I say, needs to do well to win the 250cc British title. So Neil Mackenzie there, the race leader, back with the action out on the racetrack. And up into fifth place with the departure of Alan Carter goes Paul Tinker. And in the sixth spot is number 111, Andy Watts. So there we go, Neil Mackenzie. And he started racing in 1981 from Stirling in Scotland. This will be a big morale booster. An excellent race to win. A good way to start this 3-day festival here at Oulton Park. Mackenzie had a tremendous ride at the Swedish Grand Prix at Anderstorp. And that is the gap between him and number 3 behind him is Silverstone Armstrong teammate Donny McLeod. Well, Donny went out on his own Yamaha for 2 or 3 years on the Grand Prix trail, showed exactly what he could do, and was an almost automatic choice for the Silverstone Armstrong, and the crankshaft was the problem for Alan Carter. We hear from the pits Alan Carter goes out with a broken crankshaft on the Honda machine, the Donington Honda machine, and that means a lot of work for the mechanic. Howard, the mechanic, will be burning the midnight oil to get that motor sorted out, as Neil Mackenzie, on his 5th lap, barring mistakes, this race in his pocket.
Yes, the only thing that might change that is the fact that Donny McLeod, the man in 2nd place behind the leader, we see number 4, Neil Mackenzie. McLeod did have problems in practice, a slipping clutch in the 1st session, and then a bike that cut out on him all the way through the 2nd session. So if he has got the bike sorted out now, he's gradually getting to grips with things and could just close on Mackenzie towards the end of the race.
Well, we'll get the stopwatch on the gap between Neil Mackenzie, the championship leader, and his teammate, Donny McLeod, on bike number 3 in 2nd place. And here comes the race leader. Mackenzie goes through. There's Donny McLeod, and the gap now 2.86 seconds. Well, it looks as though McLeod is getting closer. Whether Mackenzie's easing off, 6 laps gone, 2 more laps to go. Can Donny McLeod catch Neil Mackenzie? No changes behind. No changes in the top 10 position. Mackenzie the leader, Donny McLeod, then Gary Knoll in 3rd place. 4th position now is Paul Tinker, in fact, so there is a change. In 5th spot is number 8, that's Steve Patrickson, and in 6th spot is Andy Watts. And you can see the gap is getting closer. To the naked eye, it's less.
And of course the leaders now catching up with the tail enders, so as Mackenzie the leader gets in among the tail enders, he could be balked around this very twisty Oulton Park circuit, and that would allow the man we're watching now, number 3, Donny McLeod, to close in on him.
So McLeod closing up on Neil Mackenzie, we think, and Mackenzie closing up on some more tail enders, safely through that particular pair, but he's got a bunch more just ahead on the track. And news from the pits is that Kenny Irons, the talented young Luton rider, is also out of the race. Kenny Irons, a retirement. Mackenzie goes over the line now. He's on his last lap, and it's 2.36, half a second off, and certainly 2.5 seconds to pull back in 1 lap is an almost impossible task. The question is, does Neil know exactly where Donny is behind? Number 4, Mackenzie, the man who has led this race from the end of the 1st lap to now out in front, the charge up to the hairpin, changing down through the gears, the 180 degree, and McLeod is getting closer. It will certainly take a major effort. Does Mackenzie know McLeod's there? If he doesn't know he's there, he could be in trouble, Peter.
Yes, and Mackenzie actually already waving to the crowd, so I hope he hasn't taken it as read that he's won the race and has eased off too much.
So there's the gap. You can see the physical distance between Mackenzie and McLeod. Teammates in the Silverstone Armstrong squad on the last lap of this 250cc challenge. And McLeod is closer, but I don't think he's got enough time to do it. Through it, the sprint up to Lodge Corner, then it's all over, father shouting. And there goes Neil Mackenzie, looks over his shoulder, so he's not going to be caught out. Mackenzie's going to win this one. Neil Mackenzie, the checkered flag, so Neil Mackenzie the winner. Donny McLeod takes 2nd place. We're still waiting for 3rd place. And Gary Knoll goes through in 3rd spot. We're still waiting for 4th position. So the result of this 250 race, Neil Mackenzie the winner, Donny McLeod in 2nd place, Gary Knoll in 3rd spot, and in 4th position, Paul Tinker back to the studio.
Thanks, Chris. Just confirmation of that then.